What's up guys, it's your boy Dekkster here and we have 7 cards to go over, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So we got the Annoy-o-Module here, which seems like double the Annoy-o-Tron. A 4 mana 2/4 magnetic mech with Divine Shield and Taunt. Seems really solid just to play as standalone. Very similar to Lone Champion, except it doesn't require the battle cry that it's the only minion on your board, which is actually a really big drawback because Lone Champion could only be played in defensive lists. And while Annoy-o-Module does seem a little bit defensive, it can also be applied as a buff, like Velen's Chosen. So what seems craziest here for me is, of course, like a mech paladin, because we can use this on a Nightmare Amalgam. If we can play Amalgam on turn 3 and curve into this Annoy-o-Module on 4, that's going to be insane. Plus, we can also curve into the 5 mana 5/5 that we'll talk about later. It could get really nutty really fast. Plus, with the upgradable Framebot, which we'll also talk about later, the 2 mana 1/5, you can probably stick this on one of those. Imagine putting the Framebot on 2 and then coining this out on 3. Or, you know, maybe your Framebot just sticks and you curve into this thing. Plus, also, you can maybe even run a list with Brokart here. If you have the Nightmare Amalgams, you have the upgradable Framebot, and you also have the Annoy-o-Modules. Playing a Brokart's not a bad deal at all. So, I mean, yeah, the magnetic factor seems really out of control for Paladin already. We'll have to see what other classes get, but this card looks really powerful. Like, just this curve, the 2 to the 3 to the 4 is insane. Brokart's not really necessary. I'm really liking this card. I'm thinking maybe 4 out of 5, possibly 4.5. Pushing 5, we'll have to see the rest of the set. Everyone's gonna have to be running silences and single target removal with all this magnetic action that's gonna be happening. Upgradable Framebot. Now, this card is really good. A lot of people are comparing it to Diremol, a 1 mana 1/3. This is a 2 mana 1/5. That's a lot of stats. It's hard for your opponent to deal with a 5 health minion. It lives through like Eviscerate, Flame Strikes, stuff like that. It's just, if it was 4 health, this would not be that good, but it's 5, so it's pretty decent. This is definitely gonna benefit from buffs, you know, like maybe in a Shaman, if you can land this thing and then apply a Flame Tongue to it, maybe use Earthen Might or something like that. It's also gonna be really good in Paladin, I think. You can manage to call to arms these out and then put a big buff. It's gonna be pretty scary for your opponent. This is also good in Priest, you know, high health minions for that combo, the Inner Fire, Divine Spirit sort of shenanigans that always ends up finding its way through the meta. But yeah, now we got 2 strong mechs in Priest. We got the unpowered Steambot, and then we also got the upgradable Framebot. So maybe a mech combo Priest possibility is on the horizon. Who knows? I'm pretty excited about that. But overall, this card is pretty solid. It's very similar to Druid of the Swarm, which was run in token Druid lists for quite a bit, but ended up being dropped. But with magnetic being a thing, this might actually be a little more promising than that. Also really good against odd Paladin because of all the Silverhand recruits. This can trade into a lot of them, and it's, I don't know, it's gonna be a little bit oppressive to Silverhand recruit or odd Paladins, I think, which is good because that's a really strong deck right now. Also, Void Ripper can turn this into a 5/1, similar to a Tar Creeper in that sense. Actually, this thing is pretty much 1 mana cheaper Tar Creeper that's been silenced. You know what I'm saying? It's a 1/5 stat line, and people love putting buffs on their Tar Creeper, so I can see the resemblance here. And it's 1 mana cheaper, which is actually a big deal. If we are going to see a bunch of these guys being played in the meta, I think we're going to see a return of Scorp-O-Matic, the 1 mana 1/2 mech that destroys a card with 1 or less attack. This could be really good. This is probably going to come into the meta, I assume. Next up, we got Zilliax, a 5 mana 3/2 mech with Magnetic, Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, and Rush. This thing looks really good, similar to Argent Commander, which is a 6 mana 4/2 with Charge and Divine Shield. This one's got a little bit of extra stuff. We got Lifesteal and Taunt. It's 1 mana cheaper. And then we have Rush instead of Charge. But Argent Commander has kind of found its way into the meta. And I think this guy is a little bit more of a defensive version. Of course, it doesn't give you that reach to hit the opponent in the face. But it's got Lifesteal, which might be a really big deal. Plus, it's a mech and it's magnetic, so it can synergize with other things such as the upgradable Framebot. For 7 mana, you'll get a 4/7. pretty good, pretty solid. Of course, taking into consideration it has Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, and Rush. Maybe this would be really good in another Shaman sort of list, running Corpse Taker. You know, we got Ashmore possibly. Maybe we have Alakir in there. Actually, really excited about this card. I think it brings a lot to the meta, plus being able to just play it as a naked 5/3/2 instead of using the magnetization. That'd be great. Now, this obviously would fit really nicely in some sort of rush warrior, and since they did say warriors are going to have a few more magnetic minions than the other classes, maybe that's kind of where they're going with this. Maybe we just stick with the original rush package, but then we also add Zilliax in there, maybe the 2-mana 1/5, and maybe the 5-mana 5/5. We'll have to see, but I am pretty excited about a sort of tempo rush mech warrior. Maybe I'm really hoping that's a possibility. This card's actually similar to Burn Bristle, except it costs 2 more mana, it has 1 more attack, and it has rush. It's pretty good. I think this card deserves like a 4, possibly a 5 if we see better magnetic and mech cards coming in the future. All right, so we got the Beryllium Nullifier. This is a epic warrior card, a 7-mana 3/8 with magnetic. Can't be targeted by spells or hero powers, which is actually really good that they can't be targeted because of single target removal cards, but at the same time it's not that powerful. It's easily silenced, it's dealt with by Vilespine Slayer, and yeah, I'm always kind of scared to go tall. Go with 1 big minion is kind of not too good in most situations. So yeah, this one just seems clunky. It's really expensive. I like the effect. I like that it's kind of like a steed buff, but it can't be targeted. But once again, weak to silence. If this thing ever finds a way into the meta, which I kind of doubt, it's gonna get silenced. It's gonna get deadly shot. It's gonna get Vilespine Slayed. It's gonna get voodoo dolled. It's just I can't see this thing sticking around. Especially if it becomes a thing in the meta, people are going to counter it too easily. Maybe if it's not a thing in the meta, it can catch people off guard and it'd be surprising. But as far as being a staple, that's very common. I don't see this being a thing. I'd probably give this like a 2 or a 3 out of 5 because I don't see it being played too often. It might be fun, once again, playing it as a surprise card. Could actually be kind of interesting and maybe like an Oakheart sort of warrior. It does have that 3 attack stat line similar to a Void. Maybe we could see some sort of recruit warrior that has a magnetic package built in. That'd be pretty good. But we do need to see more cards in order to make that call. So we also got Wargear, a 5-mana 5/5, which is most related to, I guess, a Blessing of Kings as a 4-mana 4/4 buff. You probably want to play this thing as a buff because playing it as a 5-mana 5/5 isn't terrible, but it's not great. But if you can manage to land this thing on a mech that you've had on board, a 5-mana 5/5 buff is actually really solid. But again, making things tall makes them weak to getting wrecked by silences and single target removal. If they end up making a charge mech, this thing's going to be actually really scary. So I'm kind of hoping they don't release a charge mech. Or if they do release a charge mech, hopefully it costs 6 or more so you can't, use this with it. It's very similar to Demon Heart, which did see a little bit of play, but it didn't see too much play. This thing is also just not bad to kind of, I guess, tempo out on 5 in hopes of landing a different magnetic minion on it in the future. I guess that's kind of like worst case scenario. You play like a Cobalt Scalebane or something, but it doesn't buff anything on your board. Maybe the next turn you hit it with the Zilly Axe or something like that. Or you hit it with another Wargear, then you got a 10/10. It just seems mediocre at best right now with the current set that we've seen. So I'm unimpressed. I think this one is maybe like a 2 out of 5. So we also have this Menacing Nimbus. This is a 2-mana 2/2 Shaman Elemental with Battle Cry. Add a random elemental to your hand. This kind of seems meh. I mean, if you're looking really hard to fill that 2 slot in an Elemental Shaman, this will probably be your ticket to do that. It's just not a great card, but it fits that ticket. There are some good elementals out there and there are some shitty ones. But I don't know, it's kind of like a 1-mana cheaper Blink Fox. Instead of a 3-mana 3/3, you're getting a 2-mana 2/2. Or maybe it's kind of like a Swashbuckler. Instead of a 1-mana 1/1, you get a 2-mana 2/2. Maybe it sees some play in an elemental even shaman. That could be pretty interesting. It does have a little bit of Hagatha synergy because it does give you a random elemental minion. So if you had Hagatha, then you play this, you're going to get a Hagatha card, and you're also going to get another elemental to play to get you another Hagatha card. So I think there's about 50 elementals in standard right now, so the chance of getting a card you actually want is probably, well, really bad. I guess it's kind of similar to Pyros in a sense. Pyros is a 2/2 elemental for 2 mana that comes back, and it comes back again, but it's hardly seen, hardly played. Of course, that one can easily get silenced and you get rid of its value, and this one gets its value as soon as it smacks the board. But if there's anything we've learned from Pyros, it's that it's rarely played. It's rarely played, so maybe this card is going to be similar, although it is a Shaman card. So Hydrologist doesn't really see much play anymore. That's a 2 mana 2/2. Undercity Huckster, it got some play. And then Tortolan Forager doesn't see play. It doesn't seem play. It has a really bad pool of minions it can pull from. This one's kind of in the same vein. But yeah, I don't think this is going to see constructed play right now, unless even Shaman gets a little bit more elemental synergy going on. Instead of playing this, I'd almost rather just Earthen Might a totem that I played for 1 mana or something like that. Probably give this like a 2 out of 5. It might see a little bit of play, but I don't think it's going to stick around. So next up we got Stargazer Luna. This is a legendary mage minion, 3 mana 2/4, where after you play the rightmost card in your hand, you draw a card. I really like this concept, but I don't think it's that good. So I can see this being run over like Arcane Intellect and Tempo mages, Murloc mages. Although Murloc mages don't even run Arcane Intellect. It's kind of been cut from most lists anyways in favor of Aluneth and other cards. But it's much better than Arcane Intellect. Let's say you're playing it on a Tempo mage once again. Playing Intellect gives you 2 cards immediately, but you don't have anything on board. It doesn't apply pressure to your opponent. But if you play this, your opponent is forced to kind of deal with it, because if you do manage to get some cards off of this, it is great value. The hard part is just actually being able to get value out of it. But let's say you play some Mana Worms, maybe you play an Arcanologist after that, and then you play Stargazer Luna. Your opponent maybe already used the removal on your worm, so they won't be able to remove Luna, or maybe they have to remove your Luna, in which case your worm doesn't get removed and can possibly get out of control. But this does seem like a dead card later on in the game, unless you hold on to it for a turn. If you're on a turn where you're really needing that top deck, and this is what you draw, you play this, your opponent's probably just going to remove it, you're not going to get value, so you kind of have to get another top deck. Let's say you try and make some sort of miracle mage list. Maybe you have a lot of Sorcerer's Apprentices down, you play this, maybe you have Arcane Missiles on the right there, you play the Arcane Missiles, it draws a card, you can hopefully keep cycling things. But if you got like a Pyroblast that you top deck from this, or a spell you kind of just don't have mana for, you're kind of just dead. So I think this is very conditional, very random in a way, depending on the order of your hand, because of course you can't reorganize your hand. So if your rightmost card is something really expensive, maybe a Frostlich Jaina, maybe a Aluneth, maybe a Pyroblast, it just seems like this card is not gonna get value a lot of the time. Or if it does get value, it might just be 1 card. But once again, it would be cool if you do get some sort of miracle list, maybe curving out at 4 or 5 mana spells. It'd be interesting. Some Arcane Missiles, some Frostbolts, some Fireballs. It'd be kind of fun. I don't know, I think it'd be fun to make a sort of meme list out of this, but as of right now, I think this is just not good at all. I don't think it'd be running any current mage lists right now. Like, it's good because you can possibly get card draw off of it, but it's bad because you're possibly not going to get any card draw off of it at all. You know what I'm saying? But maybe it ends up working in some sort of combo. I see this thing being good in Wild for sure because of Flame Wakers, but in standard competitive play, I don't see it right now. I'd probably give this thing like another, like a 2 out of 5. Just not impressed with many cards so far. It might be different once we see the whole set, but right now, yeah, once again, not feeling it. So that's it, boys. That's all the cards that have been released so far. I'm not sure when they're gonna release more. I'm pretty excited to see them though, and I will be releasing more videos as they come out. So hope you enjoyed. Hit that like, hit that sub, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.